following show is controversial and contains content you may find offensive. Listener discretion is advised. 98 FM's Dublin Talks. Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy.
It's Thursday morning. Good morning. Thursday, February 21, 2019. This is Adrian Kennedy with 98 FM's Dublin Talks. Come here just for 1 second before I let you know what we have coming up on the programme. I just want to address a message that we've just gotten in this very second. And it says, Adrian, what do you think of our Lord Mayor drinking 10,000 pints, his yearly allowance, in 7 months? Disgraceful it is. Can you discuss this? That's a message we're just after getting this second. And if you're listening to our news bulletin, the Lord Mayor has defended the fact that he has run out of drink, basically. Not that he drank it. And I don't know who said it. What do you think of our Lord Mayor drinking 10,000 pints? He didn't drink them himself. In fact, let's just have a listen again to what the Lord Mayor said about his alcohol allowance.
We've had afternoon events where people have had a little tipple afterwards. For example, I do an afternoon tea for senior citizens once or twice a week now, and sometimes they stay back and there's a little bit of a sing-song and they might get a pint or two. Okay.
He didn't drink them himself. And I have to say, I'm particularly fond of our current Lord Mayor. I think he's a decent bloke, and he's providing meetings for get-togethers for senior citizens and all of that, and that's where the drink has gone, okay? He's just been too good a Lord Mayor, I think. Anyway, that's just a by the way. What is coming up on the programme today? Well, coming up today, in a moment, we talk to a crime journalist, Paul Williams, about the bizarre events which unfolded in the Special Criminal Court yesterday involving the trial of Patrick Hutch. We'll be asking if it's right to use Garda manpower to protect all those involved in the ongoing Kinahan-Hutch feud, which many believe is going to kick off all over again. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Weddings, are they a waste of money? We hear from a wedding expert who says that young couples are getting themselves into huge debt to pay for their dream day. 1 day. Well, in some cases 2 days, but still, an awful lot of money for what? We're going to be talking about that later on. And if you spent a fortune on your wedding, was it worth it? We're also going to be having a discussion a little bit later on about cannabis and whether or not it's a gateway drug and what are the long-term effects, if any, of long-term cannabis use. We'll be talking to some long-term users a little bit later on. All that and much more between now and midday today. Live from Dublin City Centre, this is 98 FM's Dublin Talks. I'm Adrian Kennedy. Now, as you will have heard in the news over the last 24 hours, Patrick Hutch has walked free from the Special Criminal Court yesterday after charges against him for the murder of David Byrne at the Regency Hotel were dropped by the state. Prosecutors asked for a nolle prosequi to be entered on all charges, bringing to an end the high-profile but long-stalled gangland trial. Relatives of David Byrne, the man who was shot dead in the raid, shouted in court that the collapse of the trial was a disgrace and that the Gardaí were afraid of the Hutches. Here is what his mother, Sadie, said outside court yesterday.
All I wanted was justice on my child. The police have 27 things gone to the DPP. One person was taken. He's after walking. Where's the rest? 26. I haven't said one word since it started. Not one word to any papers, any photographers, nobody. I kept it all down. I can't do it. I'm just sick of it. That's all. I just can't take any more.
Very upset mother, Sadie Byrne, speaking outside court yesterday. Hutch had pleaded not guilty to the murder of David Byrne at the Regency on the 5th of February in 2016. The three-judge, non-jury Special Criminal Court heard that the shooting took place at a boxing weigh-in at the Regency, as we all remember. A man dressed as a woman and another wearing a flat cap, armed with Garda handguns, followed by three people dressed in Garda-style uniforms, carrying assault rifles, raided the venue. Now, it was the state's case that Mr. Hutch was the man dressed as a woman, and that although he didn't shoot Mr. Byrne, he was part of a shared intention to commit the offence. I'm joined on the line by crime journalist Paul Williams to discuss all of this. Paul, I think it had been thought for a long time that this trial was going to collapse. Did it collapse directly as a result of the tragic death of Detective Superintendent Colin Fox?
Well, yes, Adrian. Good morning to you, by the way.
Good morning.
Yeah, it is. It was a direct consequence of the death of Colin Fox. Yes, Colin Fox, who was the detective superintendent, he was the senior officer in charge of this investigation. One of the biggest investigations in quite some time. By the way, just another thing, very important point before I lay out the rest of my stall here. This happened in 2016 at a time when only the media were seen to be doing the major policing work in this country, and people like Colin Fox had absolutely zero resources to work from. The guards were bereft of resources at the time. So you can just try and imagine, not only is this a major pressure anyway, but it's exacerbated 100 times by the fact that they had no resources when this thing happened, first of all.
Okay, so tell me a bit about Colin Fox. And it was a tragic death. It was it because of pressure, or how did his death come to pass?
Well, first of all, I knew Colin Fox many years ago. He was one of the many Gardaí assigned to the G district, who used to mind myself and my family before we were put under a full-time regime, and he was a very decent human being, a man of great integrity, a brilliant police officer, very, very hard-working, very dedicated, very diligent. What happened here was that this trial started just over a year ago in January 2018. Now, it started off on a very robust setting. The defence were very much straight out of their corner, and they were fighting tooth and nail, as you would expect in this particular case. And there was a big issue in relation to identification, and the identification of Patsy Hutch, or Patrick Hutch, was based on the photographs taken by my former colleagues in the Sunday World. And this was the famous iconic picture, now one of two iconic pictures taken by independent news and media photographers. One was the two guys, Flat Cap, who's now dead, and an IRA thug from the north, who was dying anyway. And the allegation then that the other person dressed as a woman was Patrick Hutch. Now, they were photographed running away from the premises, the Regency, after they were sent in, allegedly to find the boys where they were and come in at the back of them, while a three-man team dressed as ERU members, all fully ballied up and helmeted and carrying AK-47s, dressed as in combat fatigues, pretended to be ERU men. They came in the front door. We know what happened there. So when the trial came on, there was an issue in relation to the identification. Now, this was building up and building up. The only explanation that anyone can give is what is referred to as cognitive distortion, that basically this is where a worry one of us has, and this leads to this appalling consequence. We distort and exaggerate an irrational thought that the worst of the worst is happening, that there is no going back from, that this, whatever situation is unfolding, is the worst thing ever and you can't cope with it, and that leads to what's called catastrophization, and that's what happened here, perhaps. Now, when Colin Fox passed away, he left a number of notes. In one of the notes, as I said yesterday in the Irish Independent, one of them referred to the fact that he had been responsible for what he called a grave error of judgment. Now, the whole year...
But that wasn't properly explained, was it?
No, it wasn't. But the thing is that you have to remember, that's why I explained in the preamble to that you know, this was his mental state. So this was a man who was not well at the time, writing this before he departed this world. And the thing was that they had to search and search and search, and they went through everything. Now, they can only find bits and pieces, but nothing that would sustain...
a grave error of judgment.
Such an appalling consequence. Now, what that does then, Adrian, is that creates a doubt. Now, in order, the central plank, the cornerstone of the criminal justice process, or the common law system when it comes to crime and convictions, is that you can only be convicted if found guilty beyond all reasonable doubt.
Okay, so this has
created
these notes created some doubt. Okay, and I understand that had the case not collapsed yesterday, that would have been the defence strategy anyhow. Is that correct?
Yes, that would have been, yeah.
Okay. So, you have spoken, you've written about the fact that Patrick Hutch is now essentially a dead man walking, and you've gotten a lot of flack for saying that in terms of some people on social media saying that you're stoking the fires again on a feud that has calmed down somewhat.
Chittering, chattering, twittering class. I never actually look at social media, so thanks for bringing that to my attention, Adrian. I really couldn't give a damn, because in the vernacular, like we say it as it is. I'm doing it 30 years. I'm telling the people, the public, what's happening as it is happening, whether they like it or not. How the name of Christ could I be blamed for stoking up a problem between two gangs? One gang that has murdered, by my estimation now, it is either 16 people, while the Hutches have killed 2 people. I think it's stoked up about as much as it can ever be stoked up, Adrian. But the thing is that, yes, he is a dead man walking, and the truth is that he has been under a death sentence, like his family, the rest of his family, since before the Regency Hotel, but particularly after the Regency Hotel, because Jerry Hutch, his uncle the monk, is well accepted, organised that what would be called a spectacular. But as I've said, since that happened 3 years ago, it was a spectacular miscalculation, because quite literally they unleashed the hounds of hell. The Kinahan clique had come back and had murdered about 4 or 5 people within the space of a month after that, including Jerry Hutch, 2 more of Jerry Hutch's nephews, as in 2 of Patrick Hutch's cousins, his brother, his 2 best mates are amongst the people who are dead. So you can't really stoke up what is already a fully raging furnace.
Okay, so I read reports that there's a bounty on his head. Is it likely, or has he already left the country?
That will be the €1 million question, because there's about €1 million being thrown around about what these guys are prepared to pay to get one of the Hutches, and to do to them. They want to do things to them in much the same way you saw perhaps in the movie Reservoir Dogs, or in an episode of Narcos or El Chapo or some of those. And I always make the point to people when I do talks, is that the truth is stranger than fiction. This is how it works. They want one of these guys abducted, and they want to give them a slow, painful death. Again, in revenge for the murder of David Byrne. But
okay, so in simple terms,
it's quite possible he's in the country. Jerry Hutch has left the country 2 years ago, and the guards want him, and it's only a matter of time who gets to him first, whether it's the guards or the Kinahans. But he will probably slip out of the country. He'll probably come back. If he is back living in the North Inner City again with his family, like his father, Patsy Hutch, is a live target, very much a target of this crowd. In fact, they want him dead just as much as they want Jerry Hutch dead. But he's under police protection when he's at home. Now, he got on a motorbike. It was him picked up his son yesterday at the courts. So, obviously, they weren't receiving guard protection yesterday. And the guards are... I can understand where they're coming from. They're quite at pains to point out, 1, they must protect all life and limb, but number 2, they are not providing round-the-clock protection to these boys, because they wouldn't appreciate it, and they will protect and mind the areas that they live in to prevent other innocent people being shot or injured.
And I believe that they have been directly responsible for preventing a lot more death than we've actually seen.
Over 50 murders so far, and these have been well itemised, and it's not corporate spin from the guards. It's the real deal. Like you're talking about, when this Regency took place, and this is why it's unprecedented in Irish gangland history. But Irish gangland history is about 40 years It's 40 years in existence. And it's by European standards, it's been an unprecedented gang war, even because you're talking about 18. Some people, the Irish Times are putting down at 19. The Irish Independent, we're putting it down as 18, and one of those might be doubtful. With the latest one of a guy called Staunton, he might not have been connected with them. But no matter what way you look at it, it's a very big death toll: 17 or 18 people.
In simple terms, Paul, for our listeners, this trial collapse yesterday. Is it likely that we are going to see much more death and destruction as a result of this, as part of this feud?
It's not stoking up fires, and it's not hyperbolizing, and it's not exaggerating to say that this is far from over. Like, they are going to continue doing what they did. Like, they have unleashed this murderous machine. That's why, going back to the point I was making about the 50-plus gangland assassinations that the guards have prevented, they were all being staged by the Kinahan side. The Kinahans are throwing out money and drugs at this like there's no tomorrow. And that's why that level and that amount and number of planned hits is unprecedented, extraordinary stuff. So, yes, we haven't seen the last of this. Patrick Hutch is a dead man walking. They will keep going until get him. One of the other things you have to remember as well, by the way, and I'm very much cognizant of David Byrne's mum and how heartbroken she is, and any mother.
And even looking at the video yesterday, you could see the pain in her.
Yeah, she's heartbroken. The big problem is, of course, that somebody, it's not perhaps for her to answer, but you do have to face the fact when you're talking about an eye for an eye, which is the basic tenet of our laws, and a lot of the time from criminals, but the friends, and this is the inescapable fact, Adrian, the friends, associates, and some relatives of David Byrne have murdered 16 people in revenge for David Byrne's murder. Two of whom, there's two families listening to your show this morning from the greater Dublin area, one in Crumlin, one in the North Inner City, who have lost two completely and absolutely innocent human beings, decent men, men who are fathers. A man gunned down in Spain, another man gunned down in Sheriff Street. This is just like you have to still look at this and say to yourself, yes, sympathy is one thing, but I would appeal to Mrs. Byrne. If she is, doesn't want other people to suffer the way she has, like most mothers are, empathetic to each other, how does she feel about her son's friends and associates leaving 16 other mothers in the same boat that she's in? I'd like to find out what she thinks about that. And I can, as I say, I totally am cognizant and respect and sympathise with her as a heartbroken mum, and I've met so many of them through the years as a result of this needless violence. But 16 mothers have lost their sons, including two mothers of two men who were completely innocent. Think about that. And anyone who's whinging and moaning on social media about whether I'm stoking fires up or whatever, think about that. Think about the 16 people who are have been buried are in graves around the place purely as a result of people seeking revenge for David Byrne. So the point is, Adrian, that it would probably take another 10 or 15 deaths before these creatures are in some way satisfied that they have gained sufficient revenge for David Byrne. And David Byrne, remember, the unfortunate reality is, again for his family, he was a thug who was part of a nefarious, pernicious criminal gang who had no problem, absolutely no problem, butchering other people. He was part of a gang that shot dead Gary Hutch after a double cross when they had agreed peace between the two sides. They have gone and tried to wipe out an entire family. It's extraordinary stuff. It's unprecedented. And as I said, one of the pieces in the Independent Day, the full-time whistle is far away.
That's what I was about to say, yes. This is far from over.
It's far from over because these idiots have lots of money, they've lots of guns, they've lots of fools to go out and shoot for them. It's what they call in Colombia the sicarios. There's any amount of sicarios that you give a half a bag of coke to, or 20 grand, 30 grand, he'd shoot whoever you want. And then when he gets caught, just like they did in Limerick, when he gets caught, he's disposable. He's not going to open his mouth. He'll go to jail rather than spill the beans on the godfathers who pulled the strings and sent him out to shoot in the first place. It's part of a template, a 12 or a 10-step process. It's not rocket science. And I've seen all of this before. This happened in Crumlin and Drimna. This happened in Limerick. Gang once inseparable, indistinguishable from each other, they fall out because greed is at the centre of everything, and double crossing each other and trying to get one up on each other. Then they become sworn enemies and they start killing each other, and then innocent people get killed and they disrupt and undermine the the safety and well-being and peace of mind of whole communities. Like we saw what happened in the North Inner City in the past 3 years, all the hue and cry there was about it, the decent people just getting on with their lives, kids going home to and from school, becoming used to seeing the spectre or the spectacle of heavily armed Gardaí standing on the streets. A bit like when you saw kids going home from school in West Belfast in 1975, walking through British soldiers. It's appalling.
And sadly, it's going to continue. All right, crime reporter Paul Williams, thanks very much indeed for talking to us this morning. You can read his articles in the Independent newspaper. All right, thanks very much indeed, Paul. This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks. I'm Adrian Kennedy. On the way after the break, we're going to be asking, are weddings a waste of money?
98 FM's Dublin Talks with Des Kelly Interiors. New store now open at Belgard Road, Tala. 98 FM.
Now, let's just bring you some reaction to that interview with Paul Williams. A number of you have been in touch with us. It is very sad that yesterday the Justice Department showed that people can walk free from such a big murder that caused such a murder spree in Dublin City. Another message says, I laughed myself silly when I heard David Byrne's mother looking for justice for her son. And then another one, I think Paul was spot on today. I thought the behaviour of that family was disgusting yesterday, looking for justice. How dare they? But where's this call here now? Sorry, Sam, you have a different take on this with regard to Paul Williams.
Yeah, how are you, Adrian? Yeah, I do indeed. As I said, I think Paul Williams sits on a high still, starting the shit. He's been fed information by the state. He's told what to put out.
Sorry, Sam, I can't hear. Your phone is very muffled.
I said...
Yeah, that's better.
Can you hear me there?
Yeah, go on, yep.
I said, I think Paul Williams is working very closely with the state, with the police. He sits on a high still and is fed information, and he's the feeder to run it through the channel out into the public eye to shitstorm.
That's you see, this whole thing of shoot the messenger. Paul is just a crime journalist, and he doesn't really care what people think of what he does. He's saying even if he doesn't write another word, this feud is going to continue and perhaps get worse. It's not Paul Williams' fault.
Listen, Adrian, he put up images of the deceased in a car park and getting out with you. Now, he wasn't in the public eye, and he started putting images of the deceased in the public eye in the papers a couple of months prior to everything escalating in terms of field and stuff. Now, ever since he put them pictures up, it just brought more attention to the public.
So what, do you not want people reporting on the criminal underworld?
But he's getting fed it through the law. The law are giving him the information to get it out, to create this monster.
So you are blaming people like Paul for this feud. That's absolute rubbish. How can you possibly shoot the messenger?
He shit stores. Completely shit stores.
He will argue.
He's creating the majority of this.
I don't believe that for 1 second. And the reason I don't believe it for 1 second is I firmly believe that if Paul or other crime journalists stopped writing about this from tomorrow, it would still go on.
It'd still go on. But who's to say if he hadn't arrived?
Oh. Don't know what's happened there. All right, okay, thanks very much indeed. I have to leave it at that. You're listening to 98 FM's Dublin Talks. This is Adrian Kennedy with you until midday today.
98 FM's Dublin Talks. Call 6797 981.
Now, I have a question for you. Let's move on to something completely different. I have a question for you. Are weddings a complete and utter waste of money? Should young people who are planning on getting married bother getting into debt to splash out on one big day? Well, a woman has caused a huge debate online after a post she put on Reddit criticising couples who splash out big money on a wedding. She said that the money is a waste and that it should be used for a house instead, and that couples should wait until they have a house and are more financially stable before splashing out on a wedding. Have a listen to her rant. This is an unpopular opinion, but here it goes. People are getting married at a time in their life when they need their extra income more than any other time. Young people should be saving to buy a home, paying off student loans or starting retirement accounts instead of wasting it on one big day. My husband and I were lucky that we waited until our lives were pretty well together before getting married. And even then, it was low-key and cost around $5,000. We owned a home, had decent jobs and some savings. Why are all young couples taking out loans for one big day? It's a waste. Do you really need a photographer that costs $2,000? I see friends that are far less financially well off with huge, extravagant weddings. These parties are putting people in debt at a time when that debt can have a major impact on their future. They start their marriages in financial turmoil, which is the number one cause for unsuccessful marriages. Hold off on the weddings, or at least have a small, inexpensive one. And that was written by Becky. So, if you're somebody who spent a small fortune on your wedding or borrowed to get married, I'd love to hear from you on 6797 981. Is she right that people should not be spending an extravagant amount of money on their wedding? I heard only today of one couple who spent $40,000 on their wedding. Text me in how much your wedding cost you. Text or WhatsApp 0877 98 98 98. 0877 98 98 98. I'd love to hear from you on this. Text me how much you spent on your wedding, including the honeymoon. You can add that in because it's all part of the package. Text or WhatsApp 0877 98 98 98. 0877 98 98 98. I want to find out how much you spent on your wedding. Because according to Becky, it is a complete waste. You should wait to get married until you're more secure financially, until you have your house, until you're well settled. Then maybe have a wedding. But even at that, don't spend too much money. Laura Cunningham is the editor of Confetti magazine, and she joins me on the line. Laura, welcome to 98 FM.
Good morning.
1/4 of couples get into debt over their wedding.
Yeah, about 25% take out a loan to cover the cost. 35% are a bit more organised than that, and they pay with their savings. But you're talking about, only 40% of couples pay for the wedding completely themselves. It's still quite traditional in Ireland to get a bit of help, either for the whole thing or in part from one or both parents.
Okay, so I know that does still happen sometimes, but not all the time. But let's talk about the 25% that get into debt for their big day. A lot of people, and in fact, that you heard that thing I read out from Becky, that it is such a waste of money at a time in your life when you probably can least afford it.
Well, true. I mean, look, if you can't afford it, you might as well spend it. If you only do it once, hopefully, and you can't take it with you. But I suppose it is people who have, eyebrows are raised when you don't own a house, but you're getting $40,000 in debt for your wedding. And chances are, I mean, I hate to sound like one of those people who asks somebody immediately after they get married, when are you having kids? But statistically speaking, given the fact that the average Irish bride is 31, you are likely to be starting a family probably in the years directly following your wedding. So you do have to ask yourself, is it worth it? And I suppose every circumstance is different. But, I would always say make sure you don't get yourself in debt for years and years for something that is going to be a distant memory. And people rule themselves out of having a honeymoon as well because they can't afford it, because they're in too much debt. Because I think the average spend on a wedding now this year we have at $27,000, and that's not including your honeymoon.
Really, $27,000?
And that's up a couple of grand from, say, the years before that. But like the message that you were calling out there, like it's not uncommon for someone to spend $40,000 on a wedding. 27 is the average amount, but your big wedding.
In fact, I've just gotten a message in a moment ago from somebody saying we're getting married this summer. We have a home and 2 cars and comfortable jobs, but we set a budget of €60,000 for the wedding.
It's not uncommon. I'm not surprised to hear it. Your big wedding, the 2-day event with all the trimmings. It's easy to spend $40,000 without even thinking about it. By the time you sit down and do the maths, and that's cutting things as well. It's not. You could easily spend $100,000 on a wedding without thinking of it.
Right, geez, I don't know where they get the money, but anyhow. Okay,
well,
so your advice is to try not get into debt for that one day?
I think it's okay if you need a bit of help along the lines. Of course it is. I mean, you could wait 3 years to get married, saving away, or you get married now and pay off a bit of a loan for a couple of years. That's, as long as it's a reasonable amount and it's not crippling you financially and you can afford it, then why not? I think it's just when people spend ridiculous amounts of money and they maybe don't live in a house, or, they're still living with the parents. You just have to ask yourself, is it worth it? Because it does fly by. It's an amazing experience. And if you have the money, by all means, enjoy yourself and don't feel guilty about it. But I think it's the pressure to do it when you can't afford it is the problem, because everyone else...
I often... I've been at some weddings that cost very little, but were still thoroughly enjoyable days. I've been at weddings that cost an absolute fortune and weren't as enjoyable. So I often wonder why people throw so much money at a wedding.
I couldn't agree more. And I think we always say to people, plan for how your wedding's going to feel, not how it's going to look. Think about the important things, and there are easy ways to cut down the cost on it and still enjoy it just as much. The first one, obviously, being just cut numbers. Don't be inviting everyone and their granny and auntie just because they're in your family, Maybe go away, have a destination wedding. They're immediately probably half the price. And just don't include anything that doesn't matter to you, Like, you don't have to have a $5,000 dress, all the decor in the world in the venue, if you're not getting married in a church. But why do you have a big fancy car? Just really think about what's going to matter to you on the day, which is probably having everyone you care about around you and, a good knees up. Really. All
right. Laura Cunningham, editor of Confetti Magazine, thanks very much indeed for talking to us. I'd love to hear from you on this on 6797 981. You can text or WhatsApp 0877 98 98 98. I want to find out how much you spent on your wedding and why did you spend what you spent. Okay, simple question. Text or WhatsApp 0877 98 98 98. How much did you spend on your wedding and why did you spend that much? That message there a couple of minutes ago, we're spending 60 grand on the wedding. Now, okay, he says they're both in comfortable jobs, blah, 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 blah. They're both 29, by the way, his follow-on message said. But 60,000 euro for one day. Even if you have it, even if you're loaded, even if you won the Euro Millions yesterday. Shell, you're on 98 FM. Hi, Shell.
Hi, how's it going?
Shell, I was fascinated to hear a moment ago that the average cost of a wedding now is 27 grand plus the honeymoon. So you could be looking... I
wasn't paid in a million years.
Now, you've been there, done that. How much did your wedding and honeymoon cost you?
11,000 altogether.
11?
Yeah.
Right.
11,000. And that was a honeymoon to Florida for me, my husband and our daughter.
Right.
And we actually got married in the Bridge House in Tullamore, got married in the hotel itself.
That's where I got married last year, yeah, very good.
We had the big dessert buffet with the chocolate fountain
and
the whole lot.
Yeah.
So it can be done, like.
Yes, okay, so the wedding and the honeymoon was 11 grand, which seems reasonable, I suppose. And when you hear people spending 40 grand or 60 grand on a wedding, what do you think? Obviously, your wedding, how long ago was it? 7 years ago?
7 years. 2012 we got married.
And
we didn't borrow for it or anything. I think people borrowing for weddings is absolutely crazy. If you can afford to spend 60 or 40 grand on a wedding and you want to fire ahead, but I think there's too much pressure on people. Be like borrowing and like...
And the thing about it is, like you said, your wedding, a lovely hotel. It was out of Dublin, so it's not as expensive as Dublin hotels and all of that. Yeah. Did anybody say, "Oh, that was a real cheap wedding"?
No.
No, of course they didn't.
No.
Of course they didn't.
You know yourself, the Bridge House is absolutely fantastic venue. The food is amazing. The staff are fantastic. Mm-hmm. You know, everything is on par. We got a great deal, and we just went with it. We got married on a Monday, so that's... It's obviously cheaper if you get married on a weekday.
And everybody enjoyed themselves?
Yeah, everybody enjoyed themselves.
So do you think people are mad to be borrowing and spending that amount of money on a wedding?
Personally, yeah, I would not borrow for a wedding. Absolutely not. Because some people, they could spend that money on it and be divorced 3 years later.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And as that thing I read out a couple of minutes ago, can get divorced. One of the more common reasons for marriages failing is money issues. And, you know, if you're getting yourself into debt early in your marriage, that's going to cause problems.
Absolutely. Before you're even married, you're in debt.
All right, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed, Shell. Gary is calling from Germany. Gary, I'm going to talk to you straight after the break, but you had a solution, and that was to elope.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to find out about that in just a second.
98 FM's Dublin Talks with Des Kelly Interiors. New store now open at Belgard Road, Tala. 98 FM.
We're talking about the cost of weddings and how much people are spending on weddings, and the fact that the average cost of a wedding here in Ireland this year is €27,000 before the honeymoon. 27 grand is the average cost of a wedding in Ireland this year. And then if you add a nice honeymoon onto that, you're talking 37 grand probably. I'd love to hear from you on 6797 981. Text or WhatsApp 0877 98 98 98. Adrian, we're getting married in 2 weeks' time, says this message, in the registry office, followed by dinner and drinks for 22 of us, close family only. We're together 6 years, bought a house last year, and we're disgusted at the cost of a wedding for 100 people for a day. We both have very good jobs and savings and still couldn't justify 30 grand before a honeymoon. We're off to South Africa and Dubai for a month instead for a fraction of the wedding costs. Can't wait. Well, the very best of luck. So there's somebody who just said, no, we are not spending that sort of money on our wedding day. Gary, you decided to elope. How did that work?
Actually, yeah, that worked out really well. Myself and the girlfriend were living together at the time, and we just started saving. The idea was to save for a wedding, but as the amount in our bank account got enough for a wedding, it also was enough for down payment for a house. And my wife got the idea more and more that eloping would be a much smarter idea. And that's what we ended up doing in the end. We ended up putting a deposit on a house, bought a house, and then told absolutely nobody. And
so none of her family, none of your family, nobody?
Because the idea was that we were going to upset somebody. So we decided we were going to upset everybody and not just some people. So... So yeah, we just took off, and I was living in the US at the time. My wife was from the US, so the logistics of getting people from Ireland to the US, the cost was even more. So yeah, so we just went up to Maine, got married outside in Arcadia National Park on top of the mountain.
Wow! And
it was fantastic. And then we spent the rest of the week there, whale watching, canoeing, and had a fantastic week.
And okay. Witnesses for your wedding, who were they? Randomers?
Yeah, so it turned out that we had been to this part of Maine before, and the guest house we stayed in a couple of times, and we knew the owners, and they knew we told them what we were doing, and we asked them to be witnesses, and they were delighted.
Wow!
We had a photographer. We had not a priest. What do they call them?
The minister or whatever.
Yeah, it's just like a civil thing that you can get done. So, so had a photographer, got all the pictures, but no family pictures. We had a fantastic week.
Okay, and I know, some people think about that, about like running away to get married. What was the reaction from family and friends? Were they annoyed? Were they upset? Or were they delighted for you?
Yeah, it was a mix. So what we thought was that my side of the family would be okay with it, because I have 3 other siblings. 3 of them had gotten married at that stage. So, 2 of them got married at that stage. So
right.
We thought my family would be upset, or my family would be okay with it, and her family would be upset. And it was completely the opposite. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, so my parents weren't too happy. Her parents were fine with it, and then family and friends was just a mix. They were kind of, we missed the party, so...
Because that's really all they're missing is the party, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so in the end, after people being upset, I assume they got over it.
Yeah, well, they get over it a year later when you say there's a grandchild on the way.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Everything's forgotten. So that's exactly what
So are you glad you did it?
Oh, so glad we did it. I mean, we ended up having our house. We still had a party with friends when we came back. And then we did do a honeymoon a year later, an actual honeymoon where we came to Europe side for 2 weeks. So, yeah, it worked out fantastic for us. We loved it. I mean, the day was about us and not about anybody else.
And that's what the wedding day is. In theory, about the couple that are getting married. All right, Gary, fair play, and thanks for sharing your story. And I take it calling from Germany. Are you living now in Germany?
Yeah, we moved around a bit, but yeah, now we're living in Germany. Yeah.
All right, very good. Good to talk to you, Gary, and thanks for ringing. 6797 981 is our telephone number. Frank, you are getting married in June.
I am indeed, Adrian. Yeah,
but won't be spending a fortune.
No, not at all. Like a lot of places nowadays, they do massive like kind of package deals and stuff like that. Like, am I allowed to get the venue where I'm getting married? Or?
Yeah, if you want to. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm getting married in the Springfield Hotel in Leixlip.
Oh, right, very good. Yeah.
On the 8th of June of this year, and we got a package deal from them for about €8,000, which is kind of all inclusive deals and things like that.
Really, that's very good.
Like your DJ, band, wedding cakes, all that kind of stuff. And the only extras that we added on then was obviously the honeymoon, the kind of suits and dresses and things like that. So the whole thing for us now came in at around 15,000.
Right, which is very reasonable considering the average price this year is 27. What do you think when you hear of people spending 30 and 40 and 50 grand on a wedding?
I think it's down to each person's kind of personal preferences, to be honest with you. Like, it all depends on what you're looking for on the day. But in between myself and my fiance, like, we kind of found out that we could have a kind of really great day. We could have everything we needed, but not spend an absolute fortune on it. And we've done a lot of we went to kind of a couple of the wedding shows. We got some very, very good discounts by going to them as well. So we were able to claw back some of the costs in that retrospect as well.
Right, okay. So it can be done cheaper than the average price, obviously.
Absolutely. Like, I just think that people kind of tend to just kind of, lose the run of themselves sometimes. Like, they want this, that and the other, and they want to try and outdo maybe a friend or a family member whose wedding they attended maybe previously. But you can't, like, myself and my fiance, like, we're going to have an absolutely fantastic day. I'm really looking forward to it. But we did it not on a budget, but we did it without spending an absolute fortune.
All right, very good. So when's the wedding? April?
8th of June.
8th of June. All right, very good. Well, the very best of luck,
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much indeed. That's a good package, actually, by the Springfield and Leixlip. Eddie, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Eddie?
Good morning, Adrian. You well?
Eddie, you think it is a waste of money spending a fortune on a wedding?
Adrian, as someone who doesn't believe in religion or marriage, it absolutely abhors me that someone would want to waste that kind of money on something so...
Why don't you believe in marriage?
Sorry?
Why don't you believe in marriage?
I don't believe in marriage. It's what you feel in your heart at the end of the day. My mate's with his missus 20 years, house, 3 kids, not married. Whose relationship is better? Someone that's married or someone who doesn't? You know what I mean? It's what you feel in your heart at the end of the day. You don't need a label on it. And they're all pretend Catholics anyway. They'll spend 40 grand on this big plush marriage, nice church and that, and they won't darken the door of a church till a birth or a funeral or a special occasion.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with that, I have to be honest.
Yeah, that's crazy. I put that money off a mortgage or a deposit. That woman, Becky, who wrote all there, pure common sense. Absolute pure common sense. And then that lady to say the average wedding is 27 grand before
the honeymoon, yeah.
Before the honeymoon, so you're actually putting yourself in debt before the wedding even starts. I think that's just starting off on a bad footing straight away. You know what I mean? It's absolutely bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. Save your money, keep it for a deposit, get on the housing ladder, because the situation where the country's in at the moment, to me it just makes good common sense. You know what I mean?
All right, Eddie, so would you ever get married, no?
No, Adrian, a girl left me years ago because I wouldn't get engaged to her.
Really?
I said I love you, but it's just not a belief I have. I don't need it. You know what I mean? I don't need a ring on my finger to tell me I love you. What'll change? Nothing. You know what I mean? So, and to be honest, I probably got a lucky escape because she's been married twice since then.
Fair enough.
You know what
okay.
I mean?
Yeah. All right, Eddie. Thanks very much. Joe, you sent us in lovely photographs a couple of minutes ago of your wedding, which didn't cost an awful lot. Tell me about it.
That was in Paradise Cove in Florida. Basically, we had a private beach, minister to marry us, photographer, stretched limousine, and a fancy meal afterwards. Just me, my wife, and my kids.
You, your wife, and your kids.
The following 2 weeks after that, we spent in Disney World, living it up.
Wow!
Basically, the whole wedding for the limousine, photographer, minister, the meal afterwards, the whole lot for that full day was $2,000.
Really? Wow, okay, now...
And you see the pictures they sent you there, they're amazing.
Yeah, they are. They're lovely, actually, I have to say. So you had the stretched limo. I love the girls in their bridesmaids' dresses with their...
My wife made all of them clothes,
really?
the clothes on me and my young fella there. We bought those in Next, and they were matching clothes that we have on. But the dresses, the bridesmaids' dresses, the wedding dresses, she made them. And the flowers... Our false flowers we brought with us, she made them as well.
Wow. Now, okay, that's lovely. And so it was yourself, your now wife, and your 4 kids, and that was it. How did the rest of the family feel about it?
They were grand, because I'll tell you, my brother was getting married 2 weeks after we came back, and he went all out and had a big wedding and all, and the stress of it all. Basically, an hour before I got married, I was sitting on the couch watching telly. An hour before I got married. Then the limousine came and picked us up, threw on the clothes, and off we went. And then we went sightseeing around Florida for 3 hours, and then went for a meal. His wedding was stressful. He's in debt now, probably 35 grand.
But did anyone think it was selfish of you to have the wedding away like that with just the 6 of you? No.
I explained, and we explained to everybody, it's what we want. It's for us and our kids. And that's what we want to do. If you want to come to Florida, you're more than welcome to come over. But no one was like upset about it. It was like, very good. You're doing the right thing. No, everybody, because we got 4 kids.
Yeah, no,
so,
I know. Yeah, and they are your family, really.
Exactly. So we didn't really care about anyone else. We done it for us, nobody else.
I love the girls and they're wearing cons with their bridesmaids' dresses.
The Converse, to match. That's what it was.
Brilliant.
It was our own style. It was our own wedding. We done it our way and listened to nobody, basically. And it was the best thing we ever did.
All right, good to talk to you, Joe. Thanks very much indeed, and thank you all of you for your calls. You see, it can be done. It's just, I think a lot of us just think too much about family and friends being upset, and maybe it is the way to do it. Just run away and do it yourself. After the break, we're going to be asking, is cannabis a gateway drug, and are there long-term effects to using the drug? We're back in just a moment. 98. Live and exclusive to Dublin's 98 FM, Monday through Friday between 10 and midday. This is Adrian Kennedy. You're with 98 FM's Dublin Talks. And Trish is here with Thursday's top headlines.
Thanks, Adrian. 3 men have been arrested after €250,000 worth of drugs and cash were seized following a number of searches in Dublin and Wicklow yesterday. Gardaí raided a number of homes in Enniskerry, Tala and Ballymun during an intelligence-led operation targeting an organised crime gang operating in the counties. Cocaine and cannabis herb were seized along with €20,000 in cash. It's believed the Southside section of the Metrolink will be scrapped. It was reported that services to the Lewis Green Line would have been disrupted for up to 4 years, so work could be completed. However, the Irish Times says the Southside link is now likely to stop at Charlemont. Full details will be revealed by the NTA in the coming weeks. And Dublin's Lord Mayor has defended using his yearly allowance of alcohol in just 7 months. He served over 10,000 pints in the Mansion House since Neil Ring came into office last June. However, he says he's invited over 16,000 people into the house during that time. And now you're up to date on 98.
98 FM's Dublin Talks. Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy.
Thursday morning, good morning. How are you today? I'm Adrian Kennedy, and between now and midday today, this is 98 FM's Dublin Talks, the mid-morning talk and phone-in show for Dublin, by Dublin, and about Dublin. Now, next on the programme, this is not going to be a debate about whether or not cannabis should be legalised, because it's kind of a pointless debate. It's not going to happen anytime soon in this country, I don't think. But anyway, no, it's a discussion about the effects, if any, of long-term cannabis use. Do you believe that using cannabis over a long period of time can affect someone in a negative way? And do you believe that cannabis is a gateway drug? That users who start out with this drug are more likely to move on to harder drugs. A report from the United States has suggested that users are 5 to 9 times as likely to experience an opioid problem, which is like drugs like heroin, 3 years later if they use cannabis occasionally. That's what that report claims. It also highlights the negative effects of use on short-term memory, anxiety and paranoia, increased psychotic symptoms. The list goes on. I would love to hear from you on this on 6797981. You can text or WhatsApp us 0877 98 98 98. Denise Joy is a drug case worker from Merchants Quay, Ireland, and she joins me on the line. Denise, welcome to 98 FM.
Hi, Adrian. How are you?
Good, thanks, Denise. Let's focus on a couple of things here. And the first is a lot of people who smoke cannabis, claim that they're not addicted to it, they can walk away from it, yet they continue to do it. Is it an addictive substance like nicotine would be?
Cannabis can be an addictive substance depending on your experience, depending on how long you use it for, whether you use it every day. But certainly you can become dependent on cannabis. And in our experience, we do work with people regularly that would be dependent on cannabis.
Okay, so yes, it can be addictive, and yes, you can become dependent on it.
I would think so from our experience, yeah.
Now, I was talking about that report from the States, which goes into, the negative effects. A lot of people believe that, cannabis is a harmless drug. It's a plant and causes no harm to anybody. But there is a lot of harm associated with it.
There can be, yeah. So I suppose there's two main components of cannabis. One is CBD and the other is THC. THC is the psychoactive component. So all cannabis has both chemicals present in it, but the degree to which they are present kind of varies a lot. So people are unaware of how much of the psychoactive part they are taking. Certainly there are increased strains and no quality control and increased strains of the drug. So that's where people are running into difficulties with the drug in our experience.
Okay, so tell me some of the difficulties that people using cannabis regularly are presenting to you with.
So I suppose long-term effects with people's mental health, it can trigger schizophrenia in those who are already predispositioned to schizophrenia. It can cause people toxic kind of psychosis, panic attacks, paranoia with prolonged regular use. We work with people on a one-to-one basis to reduce their use in the community through Merchants Quay Ireland. There are kind of groups and cannabis-specific residential treatment that we might refer people onto if we feel they need further support.
In terms of the addiction, it always strikes me that it's an addiction that's not treated seriously as addictions to more hardcore drugs. Is it taken seriously?
Well, we certainly would take it seriously because we work with it every day. But I suppose cannabis and alcohol can be seen as soft drugs, but they do cause people many problems, again, with prolonged use. So, I mean, in some cases, it's not taken seriously, but certainly anyone that has experienced problems from it would take it very seriously.
So how do you recognise that you've gone from using cannabis recreationally to actually being dependent on it?
I suppose it's anything that's affecting your everyday life. If you find you can't go outside as you're taking panic attacks, if it's interfering with your day-to-day business, if you're not able to go to work, if you're performing poorly in school, and there is kind of help out there, for it. But again, any substance, it's if it's interfering with your everyday life.
Now, I know already our switch is flooded with people saying that they are regular cannabis users and it has absolutely no effect, negative effect on them. Is it possible that people can recreationally use this drug and have no negative effects?
Well, as I said, a lot of these problems that I spoke about earlier is with prolonged use, and certainly people...
What is prolonged use?
So using every day, regular consumption, heavy consumption, using quite a large volume of the drug.
Okay, so it can develop into a problem, even though people don't see it as a problem at this moment in their lives.
It can develop into a problem for some people, certainly, yeah.
Is it possible to recover from a cannabis addiction?
I would think so, yeah. I mean, we would have some kind of harm reduction tips, like to be avoiding regular heavy consumption, to avoid potent strains, to reduce the use to smoking a less potent strain, and eventually to to come off it if it is causing you problems, you know.
All right. So for people who are very frequent users of cannabis, who say they're not addicted, who say they don't have a problem with the drug, you would obviously be telling them to keep an eye on their consumption.
Yeah, it'd be like everything. Once if it's not affecting their everyday use, and it's not a problem for them, I wouldn't be condemning or condoning people smoking cannabis. If it's not causing them problems, that's fine. What we're talking about is different. We're talking about people that we work with that do have problems with it and do need further support.
All right, Denise Joy, drug caseworker with Merchants Quay Ireland. Thanks very much indeed for talking to us on 98 FM.
Thanks very much, Adrian.
And I would love to hear from you on this on 6797981. You can text or WhatsApp the programme on 0877 98 98 98. Let me read this message that came into us a couple of minutes ago. Hi, Adrian. My name is Dan. I've been on your show a number of times. I smoked cannabis from the age of 13 due to peer pressure, and I ended up addicted until finally, at the age of 22, I quit and am now 6 months sober. I ended up developing schizophrenia and psychosis due to long-term use. Smoking weed led me to becoming an alcoholic and binging on numerous drugs from ecstasy to LSD and coke, to name a few. I'm 6 months sober from everything for the first time since I was 13. So I definitely agree weed is a gateway drug. Whilst I used cannabis, I would have been of the opinion that it was not. And he goes on to say, I'm now planning to become a drugs counsellor to help people who experience what I did. I am currently studying. All right, very good. Sam, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Sam?
Not too bad. How are you?
Now, Sam, you are a regular cannabis user for the last 15 years.
Yes, Sam, indeed.
Okay, now, that's fairly regular. Have you noticed, or do you notice, anything negative in terms of anxiety or paranoia or even using other drugs?
Recreationally, I used some other drugs when I was younger, as a teenager, 18 to early 20s maybe, but that went away fairly quickly. Now I don't drink, I don't smoke tobacco. I'm a full-time chef, so I work about 60 hours a week. And I actually use cannabis when I get home to help myself to lower my energy levels. I have crazy high energy levels. So when I get home, I do about an hour and a half workout, and then I use cannabis to help myself relax and have some dinner and then go off to sleep.
That sounds like a dependency.
Well, no, it's not, because if I don't have it, it's not an issue.
Do you manage to get... what I'm getting at is, it sounds to me like you use it like a sleeping tablet.
No, I can go to sleep perfectly well without it. I just prefer it. It's like would you go home and have a glass of wine? I'm not going home and I'm not smoking €50, €100. I'm not home having one little smoke, same as someone with a glass of wine.
Now, as I said, this report that we were talking about highlights a number of issues that come from long-term use of the drug, short-term memory issues, anxiety, paranoia, panic attacks. All of these things start developing with long-term use. Have you had any negative issues at all?
I have to say that no, I haven't. I really haven't. Never been an issue for me. I've never had anxiety or panic attacks for lack of having it or lack of use, or if I use too much. Now, I did start using far too young, again, because of peer pressure, like most people in Ireland. Mm-hmm. But I think that is because it's not regulated. I didn't start drinking too young because I was taught about it and explained about it by my parents. But they didn't know about cannabis. They didn't know its effects. And that was pushed on me as a kid, as I'm sure a lot of people would have been pushed on Tom.
Okay, like I said, it's a conversation for another day about legalising the drug. Yes, but in terms of the effects, you don't believe there are any negative downsides to using this drug?
Not to me personally, but to every substance is going to affect everybody's body differently, everybody's mind differently. Some people can't drink 2-3 pints and they start looking for a fight. They become aggressive. They're not nice people to be around.
Correct.
So yes, some people might have THC, and it might cause panic attacks. It might affect them negatively.
But for you, it doesn't.
For me, it doesn't, no.
Okay. A regular user, use it every day after work. Could you stop?
Yes, I've done many times.
For how long?
Just to take a break, couple of months.
Yeah. And does life continue as normal during that couple of months? Because I'm about to talk to somebody who says it took him 6 months to get a proper night's sleep after giving it up.
Now, can I ask, is that the text you just read out before you called me?
No, it's not. No,
it's someone else.
No, it's somebody else.
Okay, sorry, because I was going to say that I find it hard for someone to blame cannabis for their problems when at the same time they're using alcohol and all other drugs that are proven to kill people and be physically addictive. And yet people find that it's cannabis that's affecting them negatively while they're drinking 8 pints and taking a gram of cocaine. It's the joint that's affecting them badly. I find that hard to believe.
All right, stay there for 1 second, Sam, because Pascal, it was you that sent that is saying that it took you 6 months to get proper sleep after giving up weed.
Hi, Adrian, it did, yeah. And I smoked cannabis from the age of 15 to 32. Then I met my wife, and I moved from Italy to Ireland. And I wasn't looking for cannabis whatsoever. But I couldn't understand why I couldn't sleep at night. And then I went to see a counselor, and I told her about my background of smoking weed every day, like 2 joints every night after work, and 1 during the day when I wasn't working. And it took me 6 months just counseling and understanding what was wrong. It was just my body used to to get this relaxing feeling after work. And,
so you had become dependent on it?
Yeah, I did. And I think it's the opening door to all the other addiction. If I had not smoked cannabis, I wouldn't have tried coke, I wouldn't have been gambling, or, it all depends on the background of your family. If, if you're somebody with prone to addiction, it's the opening door to a disaster. I think cannabis should be always illegal, or at least not smoked before you're 40, when your brain is fully grown.
So, okay, you developed a dependency, and when you stopped using it, it took you months to learn to live without it, essentially.
Yeah, and I put 10 kilograms on as well.
Oh, really? Okay, right, fair enough.
I put weight on as well, yeah.
Okay, are you sorry you ever smoked it in the first place?
I tell you what, I'm sorry that I started at 15. Now I wouldn't, because I would get, if I ever pass, I just need to go home, or it's just a disaster for me. But I think after the age of 30 or 40, when you know yourself, and, it's okay to relax sometimes. But no, I wouldn't smoke it again. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure about that. But there was times it was good, but it's very dangerous, especially for those kids that grow up without parents or with trouble in the family. It's a very easy, drug to attach and
okay, Sam. I was saying a couple of minutes ago telling you about Pascal's story. That isn't you, though. You can go for months without it, and it has no effect on you whatsoever.
No, look, there'll be a couple of days where there will be a difference in my body and my sleep patterns, but I've been using for 15 years as well. If you use coffee, 4 or 5 cups of coffee a day for 15 years and you stop straight away, you're going to notice an effect. No? If you drink 2-3 pints 15 years every day, you stop straight away, you're going to notice an effect. Your body...
I disagree.
Sorry, say that again, Pascal?
I disagree. I think smoking weed, it kind of stretches your brain into getting into a situation where you shouldn't be. Especially at a young age.
Yeah, I'm not saying kids should not smoke.
Relax you and the over. We only know 30% of our brain. There's something about it that it's not great. I never advise. I hope my kids would never smoke it. Sorry to interrupt you there.
Okay, Sam, in terms of it being a gateway drug, and a gateway drug, for people who don't know what that expression means, that you start on cannabis, you end up going onto stronger and harder drugs. Do you agree that it is a gateway drug?
I don't know, I've been offered cocaine and ecstasy more times in a pub while I've been having a pint than I have been sitting in a room smoking some joints with my friends.
So is that no is the answer?
To be honest, no, yeah. I got to be honest, no. I think the others would be more a gateway. If you drink alcohol, you lose control, basically. You lose control of your mind, you lose control physically. So you're going to make bad decisions. On cannabis, you don't lose control. You're still yourself. You're still able to make decisions. So if you're then using that not as an excuse, I'm not going to say that, but if that is then causing you to go and use other drugs, then it was already the want there in the first place. Cannabis and THC is just going to accentuate that want. It's going to make it stronger. It just makes you feel more what you're already feeling. If you're feeling tired, it's going to make you feel more tired. If you're feeling happy, it's going to make you feel more happy. If you're feeling sad, you don't want to smoke, it's going to make you feel more sad.
All right, Sam, thanks very much indeed for your call. 6797 981 is our telephone number. You can text or WhatsApp the programme 0877 98 98 98. We're talking about cannabis and its effects on people who are addicted to it, people who believe there's no effect on them. After the break, I'm going to be talking to a lady whose voice we will be disguising to protect her identity. She's going to be telling us about the fact that her husband is addicted to such an extent that they can't even go on a family holiday. You can hear that lady's story straight after the break.
98 FM's Dublin Talks with Des Kelly Interiors. New store now open at Belgard Road, Tala. 98 FM.
And this is Adrian Kennedy with you until midday today. We're in the middle of a conversation about cannabis use. And earlier on we had somebody giving out about Paul Williams shooting the messenger. And now we're about to be lashed out of it as well.
Bunch of sheep, 98 FM are brainwashed by the media. Do your own research, watch documentaries. You realise how helpful this plant is. It's not a problem. The problem is when you mix it with tobacco. That's the problem. Off the high horse, stop sitting at home drinking your wine and use our cans every night and open your eyes.
Okay, I'll open me eyes. And if you want to send a WhatsApp voice message, you can to 0877 98 98 98. Here's another one.
Hey, this crap that is a gateway drug is literally that crap. Nobody smokes a joint and goes, oh, I want to do a load of coke or do a load of heroin. The only reason why it's a gateway drug is because it's illegal. And the fella who sells you a bit of weed might also sell a bit of coke and sell a few weeds. Then when you're buying a bit of weed off him after a while, he sells you a bit of coke or throws you a bit for free. And then before you know, when you're getting your weed, you're getting coke off him regularly as well. That's your gateway drug. If weed was legal, it'd be regulated. It's easier for kids to get a bag of weed than it is a bag of cans, because if they buy a bag of cans, the fella who sold it to them will be arrested and the store will be closed down.
All right, thank you. Now, I've disguised this next caller's voice and changed her name to protect her identity because of the story she's about to tell us. Helen, welcome to 98 FM.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. Tell me about your husband and his addiction to cannabis.
Well, my husband, we've got kids, he goes to work, normal day, comes home from work and he literally just smokes it. And he gets lazy, doesn't help. He's trying to give it up and he just has night sweats, he can't sleep, he just gets cranky and basically it's ruining our whole family life.
And you were saying that it's so bad that you can't even go on a family holiday. Why not?
Because where is he going to get it? How is he going to smoke it? We've gone on holidays. He's managed to get it out from a friend that was there just before him in the same area and told him how to get it, and he got it. But anytime we try and do anything like a holiday, he's like, well, I know he hasn't personally said it's because he can't get it, but it is because he doesn't drink. He just smokes this. And it'd be impossible to live with on holidays. It'd be impossible to listen to.
Really?
No
it's that bad?
Yeah.
So from the moment he comes home, he just smokes his brains out?
Yeah, basically, yeah. That's it. No communication, no nothing. Just smokes and that keeps him happy. But it's not keeping, obviously, me happy because I'm doing everything else. I'm doing the whole kids stuff routine, the whole thing.
Okay, so the effect it is having on you is it's ruining your relationship by the sounds of it.
Oh, big time. And people do forget as well that it's not just ruins everything. Like, he has absolutely no sex drive because of smoking it. That, nobody ever mentions that end of it. Or no relationship, has no interest. All he's interested in is smoking it.
Now, people believe they're not addicted to it. In fact, you heard that call a couple of minutes ago.
He's addicted. He's tried to give it up. He's had where you couldn't even sleep beside him. He can't sleep. He's up at 1, he's up at 2, he's up at 3. The bed is absolutely drowned in sweat. He's tried, but you just can't. You can't live with him. And then he gets really cranky and bites the head off the kids for nothing. And so I don't know.
God, it sounds like you're walking on eggshells.
Yes. When he's smoking it, no, perfect. Wouldn't ever get angry. He relaxes them, and
But it is literally ripping your relationship apart.
Oh yeah. I would watch TV on my own, while he would, smoke whatever, like, and that's it. Like, there's no driving him, there's no going him. He's lazy in the mornings when he is smoking it. He can't get out of bed. He finds it hard to get up then on the weekends. When he gets up and goes to work during the week, no problem. But come the weekend, when he's not working, he can't get up. So I'm up 7 days a week.
You say he's tried to give it up. Has he gone for counselling? Has he gone for help?
No, he doesn't believe in any of that. He just believes in going cold turkey.
But that doesn't work for him?
No, it worked for a few weeks. And I think it was about 3 weeks. 3, maybe 4. And I've seen a big difference in him in them 4 weeks even though he was cranky and sweating and not sleeping at night. He was up at 9 every morning. He was up when the kids were up.
And what made him go back then?
Can't sleep. Just needed it. And all his friends smoked.
Wow, that's... a lot of people, and you've heard calls already saying, well, no, it's a great drug. You heard that message I read out there saying we need to do our own research, get our facts right and all that. The fact of the matter is that his dependency on this drug is so severe that it is destroying your family, your relationship, everything.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought of leaving him?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. And he knows. And at the end of the day, I don't know. I think he would choose that over us, to be quite honest. I do.
Really?
Yeah, I do. He knows how I feel about it.
Well, that's a real addiction now, if he's prepared to do that.
Yeah, well, I haven't said it, but I just know it's something that he'd be impossible, find very hard to give up. Very.
How close are you to that?
Don't know he smokes it either, a lot.
How close are you to doing that?
I'm not too far off it, to be quite honest. Especially this week, with the kids being off for midterm. When you're with your kids all day, and then in the evening time, he has to relax.
God, that sounds awful. It really does, Helen. So you're not far away from leaving your husband because of his cannabis addiction?
Yeah.
So for people...
I'm basically a single man. I am. So I know he goes out and works and, there's bills and, money and pay, things like that. But, I am a single man. I'm with my kids 7 days a week, nearly by myself.
So to people who say that this is a harmless drug, like that message a couple of minutes ago, what do you say back to them? And what do you say to people like your husband?
Well, I'd love him to stop us. I don't think it's going to be that easy. I don't think, maybe it is for some people a harmless drug. I know some people, friends of his that can smoke it and carry on and great and do things, but whatever it does to him, I don't know. He just has no drive on it to do anything.
That's a very sad story, Helen, and it's one I've never heard before about the absolutely devastating effect that the frequent use of cannabis can have on a wife, on a family, on a whole household. And I really appreciate you talking to me so openly and honestly. Thanks very much indeed, Helen.
Thank you.
Thanks. And we disguised that lady's voice for obvious reasons. I'm sure you'd agree. Where am I going next? Dave, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Dave?
Hey, Adrian, how are you?
Dave, it says on my screen here that you are addicted to weed and trying to give it up.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
In what way are you trying?
Well, I tell myself this is the last. this is the last bag, and then there's one more bag, and so that's been going on for a long time now. Now, like I said, I don't think that necessarily weed is a bad drug. I think like alcohol in small doses, it's absolutely fine. But unfortunately for me, I'm smoking every day, and it's not even that I'm having one a day. It's not the case, I'm having 2 or 3, sometimes more, depending on the weekend when I'm off. I could have 6, 7, I could sit there and the eyes are in the back of my head.
Okay, so you know that it is having a negative effect on you?
Yeah.
Okay, you heard Helen's story. Is it having that sort of effect on you, and that it's affecting other people around you?
Well, not because I'm lucky enough I'm single, so there's
right.
No... but yeah, no, it definitely would have before, like in previous relationships, and even girls that I've dated and all that, and they'd be like, oh, and like I said, I'd be happy if I could smoke, like socially, every now and again. I'd be happy with that, but unfortunately, I don't think I can, because I just think, like I said, the first thing I do when I come in from work is have a joint, and that's it. Like, and it's kind of like, if there's something on, I'll say, oh, I'm not going to go there because I want to have a smoke instead and just sit in and watch a movie.
Wow, so it is having the sort of effects that it's having on Helen's husband.
Absolutely, yeah. But, when, like I said, now, don't get me wrong, people not slag me to say you're like a functional stoner, because I'll still go to the gym and I smoke a joint before I go to the gym, and I do be absolutely fine. But yeah, I do point to gone. Okay, you said you're trying to give it up. What's stopping you? Yeah. What stopped me? Just addicted, habit. Like, I gave up before, and I was like that. It was a snap of the fingers. It was just something that happened, and I went right, that's it, I'm done. And I didn't smoke for a couple of years. And then gradually, just kind of would have an hour drag then every now and again. And now all of a sudden, then I'm back to 4 or 5 at night, probably at this stage.
No, I don't smoke. I don't smoke it myself, but the only thing I can compare it to is cigarettes. Anytime I've ever given them up, if I even have a drag out of one, I'm back smoking again.
Yeah.
So it's the exact same thing. Have you ever thought of getting help or counselling for it?
No, but at this stage, maybe I should, because, like I said, I know it's stopped me from moving on in my life, that I'm just kind of stuck, if you like.
In a rut?
In a rut, basically, yeah. Like, I want to move on. I want to meet a girl, maybe not get married. But maybe, some more serious and stuff like that. And, and I know, look, as long as I keep doing this, like, it's not going to happen. So I know that I need to. And I've been telling people, like friends, I've stopped telling people, like, keep saying, no, I'm going to give up. And at this stage, like, I just don't tell them anymore because
they don't even listen to you, yeah.
No, and I don't blame them either.
And it's like me with cigarettes over the years. I just don't tell people anymore. Have a listen to this message, because I'm sure you don't want to be this soldier. This message says, I completely understand that lady. This was Helen, who was on a minute ago. I went through the same. I ended a relationship because of hash. He had no drive in any part of his life. We ended up losing our home, and in the end, through years of this, fell out of love because of lack of respect for his inability to see the damage this drug was doing. You don't want to be that person.
No, I definitely don't want to be that person. And like I said, if it was the case where I could have it socially every now and again, I'd be absolutely fine, because like I said, it's like alcohol. It's just better than alcohol. Like, you can have the same conversation on alcohol. But yeah, I know it affects me. Like I said, first thing I do when I come in from work, I'll sit down and I'll have a joint, and that's it. Then for the night, then I'll just have 3 or 4 smokes for the night. And like even tonight, for example, I was thinking, I'll go to the cinema, but then I'm thinking, okay, now I'm going to have a few smokes, and I'm just going to sit in and have a few smokes instead of going to the cinema. Just one example.
Right. Well, that's enough of an example, Dave, for you to, after this conversation, think about this conversation and say, right, that's it. I'm going to get help. I'm going to get off this stuff.
Yeah, and like I said, it's like you, like I said, if that girl that was talking earlier, now I only got to the start. Now, if you have a number or something, like I said, I would take it.
Okay,
like
well, stay listening. We'll put you in touch directly, and you can get that help and get off that drug, because it's obviously is having a very negative effect on your life. Good to talk to you, Dave, and thanks for being so open and honest with us. My marriage broke up for the same reason as that woman who was on air. I never knew this was as much of an issue. as it is in terms of the effect. Amy, you're on 98 FM. Hi, Amy.
Hi.
Amy, it says on my screen here that you said Mammy needs a joint should be as socially acceptable as Mammy needs a glass of wine. What do you mean by that?
Like, mothers go home from work and they can have a glass of wine and chill out for the night. But you can't do that with a joint. But even though a joint is actually less toxic for you than wine.
I've just heard a story of a guy's life literally being in a rut because he's smoking it so often. I've just heard a woman tell us she's about to leave her husband because of his smoking. That's not good.
Well, these people must have addictive personalities, because I know plenty of people that have no problem with it in their whole life. They work full-time jobs, they have kids, they're creative, they're like nice people, there's no problem with them.
But but that guy who was on a second ago, he is holding down a full-time job, but he as soon as, and it's the same with that woman's husband, but as soon as they get home from work, they just smoke and smoke and smoke. That's not good.
Sorry, what did you say?
They get home from work and they smoke and smoke and smoke.
Right, and some people get home from work and they drink and drink and drink. You know, it's just having that addictive personality. Some people could come home from work and go without smoking it and still have the normal. They could come home and have one joint, feel fine. They could come home and even have one drag of a joint and be fine. You know, I think it's just down to the person and their personality. Weed is not physically addictive at all. Like, there's studies.
Those people who've been on, that husband and that guy that was just on a second ago would totally disagree with you. They've tried to give it up and they can't.
Well, the studies would disagree with them, because I know...
Well, they're telling the story themselves. You heard that woman who said her husband would sooner end their marriage than end his cannabis.
Well, that's him. Like, maybe he's just that kind of person. Maybe if it was drinking...
You see, I think what these stories show, Amy, is that we shouldn't be romanticising this drug as much as we are.
No, definitely not. It shouldn't be romanticised. It should be regulated the same way as any other drug is. You know, people rely on sleeping pills to sleep every night. People rely on drink every night. You know, if it was drink that man was doing instead of cannabis and he wanted to pick that over his family, would there be a big debate over it? No, because it happens every day here in Ireland.
All right, good to talk to you, Amy. Let me just bring in one last call, and that's you, Cian. You're on 98 FM. How are you, Cian?
How's it going, pal? How are you?
Good, thanks, Cian. What do you want to say on this?
I'm a regular weed smoker now myself, and I've no paranoia, no schizophrenia, nothing like that. I'm able to get up every day, go to work. I can quit whatever I want. There was a stage there where I was off for 2 years. Do you know what I mean? Like, I personally don't think it's an addictive substance. Now, that's not speaking for everybody.
Yeah, no, I was about to say, you heard a guy who's going to go and get help today. You heard that lady describe her husband prefers cannabis to her. That's an addiction.
Well, no, I'm going to say one thing there now as well. Like, people use a lot of things to get away from problems that they have that they want to ignore. For instance, like, I don't know, you don't know the relationship between that man and his wife. Is he happy in the relationship? Is he not happy in the relationship? When my mate died, I got into a hole. And yeah, I did start smoking loads and ignoring everybody and everything else like that. But I got myself out of the hole thinking, I can't be doing this, blah, 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 blah. But that's because I was sad and I was trying to get away from a problem. Do you know what I mean? If this man, like, people use alcohol and they use Valium and everything else to get away from problems they just don't want to deal with. So it's not an addictive substance. To me, personally, it's not. But to other people, sure. Other people can't have a drink.
Okay, so could you stop? Could you stop tomorrow?
Yeah, absolutely.
Would it have any effect on your sleep patterns or anything?
I sleep baby anyway. I leave every morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I get home at about 10:30 at night. And I have no issues ever in my life of getting up in the morning.
All right, Cian, thank you very much indeed for your call, and thank you very much, all of you, for your calls. Earlier on, we were talking to Denise Joy is the lady's name. She is a drug case worker from Merchants Quay, Ireland. She regularly deals with people with cannabis addiction. If you want to contact Merchants Quay, by all means do, if you believe that you have an issue. So, as I said, Denise was a drug case worker from Merchants Nations Key, Ireland. This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks. I'm Adrian Kennedy. After the break, white lies that we tell in our relationships. Are you guilty of telling any? We're back in just a second.
98 FM's Dublin Talks with Des Kelly Interiors. New store now open at Belgard Road, Tala. 98 FM.
And this is Adrian Kennedy with you until midday today, and our Jeremy is here with me.
Adrian, how many drinks did you have last night?
One.
You were in the pub with your mates last night. I know you were.
That was the night before.
Oh, the night before.
Yeah.
And your missus was at home waiting for you.
Yep.
Had the fire lighting, the whole lot. How many pints did you have on Tuesday night?
2.
Oh, it's gone up.
Yeah, 2.
How many pints did you tell her you had?
2. How
many did you actually have?
3.
I was like getting blood from a stone. How many did you... She's not listening. How many did you have?
3.
The reason I'm asking Adrian this is because a story in the news today about white lies and how they can save a relationship. Now, we're not talking about massive big lies, okay? We're talking about the white lies that you tell in relationship. It says, here's what the story in the Mail says. Little white lies are the key to strengthening in a relationship. We're not talking about whopper lies, and they will leave you single, but little white lies in a relationship are no harm. And seemingly, Adrian, we tell our partners at least one white lie every single day.
Really?
Now, how many pints did you have on Tuesday night?
1.
It's come back down to 1. They've also given examples of some of the lies that women and men tell in relationships. And one of them that women tell, and we want to get to the bottom of this as well, is about the cost of their hair.
Yeah, a haircut's only 20 quid, isn't it?
Now, according to my wife, for the first 6 years of our relationship, a full mesh. Do you know what a full mesh is?
No, but I don't need to know, do I?
No, well, I don't know what a full mesh. But my wife is claiming to me, and still claims to me, that a full mesh, I think it's where you get your hair completely, get the roots done.
Right.
A full mesh for a woman to get done is €50.
Right.
Now, is that true or is it not true?
I have no idea, because I don't even know what a full mesh is.
Okay, but if there's a hairdresser listening or a woman who's listening, can you please tell me whether or not my wife is lying to me? Is a full mesh, which means getting your hair, getting the roots done on your hair, is it between 50 and 60 quid? Because if it's not, my wife has been lying to me for the last 6 years. She constantly lies about how much her haircut costs. Because she knows mine only costs a tenner. My haircut's a tenner.
Yeah, mine's 12.
How many pints did you have on Tuesday?
None.
See, a good liar, someone who can lie, will always remember their lies.
Oh.
You've forgotten them. You've gone from 3 to 1 to 0 to 2.
Okay, what little lies do you tell to your partner, or have you told? Yeah, go on.
The next time you're in, here's a trick. Next time you're in the pub and you're drinking pints, write the number that you're going to lie to your wife about on the back of your hand.
Good plan.
No, yeah. So when she arrives home and says, Adrian, I can smell drink off you. How many did you have? You look at the back of your hand and you say, oh, is that the time? 4.
Right, okay.
And they never wash their hands.
I'd never say 4, by the way. Never. Yeah, okay. 6797981 is our telephone number. What little lies? See, that's why we're playing that music in the background.
Yeah, I got that, yeah.
Yeah. What little lies do you tell just for a quiet life, I suppose? 6797981 is our telephone number. And by the way, for some lucky caller between now and the end of the show, I have a €50 Des Kelly Interiors gift card voucher. It's all to celebrate their brand new store, now open on Belgard Road in Tala. And a fine store it is as well.
In fact, you might win that voucher if you can tell me how much a full mesh is. I need to know.
Anyway, get in touch with us right now, 6797981. What little lies do you tell to your other half? Where am I going now? I'm going to line 1. Jack is in Tala. You're on 98 FM, Jack. How are you?
Not too bad, lads. Thanks very much.
So, Jack, we all have to go to the toilet. It's something us humans all have in common.
You don't need to lie about that now, do you?
Jack does. You lie. You pretend to be going to the toilet. For what reason?
Well, lads, not being funny, but when you're stuck downstairs and she's watching Coronation Street and EastEnders and you just had enough of it, you have to make up something to get out of there.
And no one is ever going to question your toilet.
No.
No one's going to say you don't need to go to the toilet.
Of course not, no.
No.
Exactly, that's how you get away with it, because she's not going to say, oh, you don't need to go. I mean, you know that, you know?
So you basically tell a lie about having to go to the toilet in order to watch like a YouTube video.
I just go up there and watch videos on YouTube just so I can get away from Coronation Street and Fair City and that.
Can you not just say, I'm going to watch YouTube videos to get away from Coronation Street?
No, because if I do that, then I met with a debt stare and I put in the bad books for the next week.
What, it's a compulsion to watch Coronation Street?
Oh, in this house, yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
There's actually a great app, lads, that you can use on your phone. I think I have it somewhere on the phone. And this is basically an app where it simulates the sound that you're having a shower. So you put the app on your phone and you bring the phone into the bathroom.
Yeah.
And you turn, let me just see if and you basically turn the, sorry, I'm trying to open the app here. You turn the app on when you're in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And it makes out that you're having a shower in the bath. And basically, if she thinks that you're lying or whatever, she'll go up to the door and all she'll hear is this in the background. There it is. It's called, you can find this on an Android or phone. It's called a Fake Shower app. And I've used it before. So basically what you do, Jack, is you go into the bathroom,
right,
place the phone on the floor of the bathroom. This is gold. Turn the Fake Shower app on. There is the noise. Do a bit of singing every minute just to make it authentic. You know what I mean? I will survive. Whatever song you sing in the shower.
That's hilarious. Sorry, I have a simpler solution.
Yeah. Don't
just turn the bloody shower on.
No, that's a waste of water. So there you go. Look. And she'll knock on the door. Jeremy, honey, I'm still in the shower.
That's hilarious. Okay, Paul, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Paul? Will you turn off the shower, Jeremy?
I'm still showering. Okay, hang on.
How are you doing, Adrian? You well?
Okay, now, tell me the little white lie you told.
Well, about November 7th, 2017, my daughter and her boyfriend bought me tickets to see Kevin Bridges last November, 2018. So I never actually mentioned it to my partner, the girl I go out with, and then when it came up to the night of the actual Kevin Bridges show, my partner had asked me to go to the movies with her and stay in her house that night. So I told her my boiler was broke, and I had somebody calling over to have a look at it, and I went to see Kevin Bridges.
And Kevin Bridges, for anyone who doesn't know, is a comedian.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, he's a Scottish comedian.
Yeah, but hang on, your boiler was broke.
No, it wasn't. I told her it was.
Yeah, but hang on, how would that affect you seeing her? Because you're not going to get a plumber to your house in night.
Well, I told her it was a friend of a friend was coming over to the house to have a look at it.
Can I just tell you, Paul, nobody will ever believe that a plumber would call to a house at 8 o'clock at night. It's hard to get them there at any time of the day.
I know, she did. She believed me. She actually believed that they were coming over, yeah.
That's unbelievable. Would it not have been easier to say, I'm going to see your man Bridges?
Well, she was looking forward to going to this movie, and I didn't want to kind of say so I kind of said that the boiler needed to see.
But then obviously you could never discuss with her that you went to see Kevin Bridges.
No, I actually have said to her on a few occasions since then that Kevin Bridges was here in November, and I would love to go and see him.
That's brilliant. All right, thanks, Paul. I just want to bring you some breaking news that's literally happening as we speak. This is from Dublin Airport. For safety reasons, we are temporarily suspending flight operations at Dublin Airport due to the confirmed sighting of a drone over the airfield. Passengers should contact their airline's website for flight updates. We will continue to provide updates on that's on their Twitter account. So once again, this is Dublin Airport just moments ago saying for safety reasons, they are temporarily suspending flight operations at the airport due to the confirmed sighting of a drone over the airfield.
That's literally breaking in the last couple of minutes.
As we speak. All right. Now, let's get back to the little lies. Peter, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Peter?
How's it all, lads?
Oh, yeah. You're on about hair meshes.
Jeremy, you're being taken for the fool, you are.
I'm sure
50 euro. It probably costs 50 euro to put the mesh thing on the head and put the dye in. How does she get it washed and blow dried over here?
I don't know what happens when she goes to the hairdresser, Peter. All I know is, it's her money. She's able to spend what she wants to spend on it.
How much is she spending, Peter?
At least 150 euros. You're not going to see much change from 150. A wash and blow dry is about 60 quid in itself, at minimum. And then probably gets a style and probably bleeding has a chat with all the gear. My missus got her hair done one time and came home and was like, it was 200 euros. I nearly died. I was like, what? That's a weekend away for your hair.
So hang on, the same woman, my wife, who gave out to me for buying Star Wars Lego last week, saying it was a waste of money, is spending 160 quid.
Think of the time she's got this mesh thing done, and now add all the other €100. Think about the Lego you could have bought with all that money she wasted.
Oh my God, she's going to be murder in the Dixon house
but she looks lovely when she gets the roots done, though. So what can I say?
Everyone is saying a full mesh is anything between 125 and €180.
Ah, stop.
Yeah,
that's what I'm going to buy 6 Lego sets today.
My granddad ate carrots for years, but he hated them. But he didn't want to hurt my nanny's feelings.
Ah, that's love, isn't it?
Isn't that real love? Yeah, it really is. Bart, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Bart?
Hi, I'm great. How are you guys?
Now, it says on my screen that you used to have exotic reptiles, but you had to lie to your ex when you got new ones.
Kinda, yeah. I still have them. So basically what happened was I was keeping the spiders and the reptiles before I even met her. And she knew straight away about my weird hobby. So when she moved in, she said to me, like, try to keep your collection down. Just leave it as it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to sneak, one by one. I got this on an offer. My friend was selling this. It was nice. It was cheap. So sneak in one by one, hoping she wouldn't realize that it's growing. And it grew from about 60 to 100.
Did she ever notice?
Yeah, she did notice eventually. She was.
Is that why she's now your ex?
Yeah, pretty much.
Good enough for you. He's building a whole collection under her nose and lying about it.
I wouldn't live in a house with exotic reptiles.
Lads, I'm going to Liverpool tomorrow morning, but I have to tell the missus I'm going to Waterford for a soccer match on Saturday morning. She wouldn't like me going to Liverpool.
Okay, here's what you need to do. Jeez, I swear I'm the best liar ever. What you need to do is you need to get some stock photographs of Waterford on your mobile phone, so that when she rings you, which she will do, and says, where are you? I'm in Waterford. Oh, send me a picture. You need a picture of Waterford on your phone.
Quick thinking, Batman.
Yeah, you see, I've been there before. Yeah, but what does he do if she says, send me a photograph of yourself in front of the main street in Waterford?
Or she rings him on FaceTime or whatever.
Yeah, what do you do?
All right, thanks very much indeed. This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks. Let's give the voucher. Let's give the voucher to Bart, who was just on a moment ago about his exotic collection.
Get a rug for your lizard at Des Kelly Interiors.
€50 Des Kelly Interiors gift card for Bart. That's it from us for today. Once again, that breaking news, which will be covered in detail in just a moment. Dublin Airport has suspended flight operations due to the confirmed sighting of a drone over the airfield. Full details on 98 FM News in just a moment. And that's it from us for today. Barry Dunn is next. In the next hour, he's got some great music lined up, like these.
Giving you everything, all that joy can bring. 98 FM's Dublin Talks with Des Kelly Interiors. New store now open at Belgard Road, Tala. 98 FM.